That's great, Ali. So, just before we go, I wanted to ask you about burnout because I know that's something you and I have both experienced. It's something that's happening more and more to people all around the world as they struggle to disconnect and just match expectations of or what they feel they're expected to do, even though it might not be. And for anyone watching this video, I wanted you to point out some of the early warning signs of becoming burned out and maybe a couple of tips of how to head that off once they realize they might be becoming burned out or they're headed that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a lot of people, it's kind of a slow fade to get there, right? It's the saying yes when you don't want to. It's the working longer hours, and then that becomes the norm, right? Like maybe it's starting out because it's a project or whatever, but then now it's turned into your norm, and it's the constantly having the notifications that are basically controlling you. You're constantly in reactive mode, right? And it's going on and on and on with in this way. And then we get to the point where we're experiencing burnout, but because it's become normal, uh, it's become our norm, right? And when things become normal to us, we don't realize, how unhealthy it can actually be. We're just kind of, this is just the way life is. This is the way it's going.
This is how everybody
And
feels.
yeah, exactly. This is how everyone is. Everyone's getting 4 hours of sleep a night. Oh, I've been getting 4 hours of sleep a night for years now. I'm accustomed to it. Doesn't mean your body isn't stressed out though, right? So I think when you can get to the point, self-awareness is just a huge piece to this. When you can get to the point where you can be self-aware and get in touch, and connect with your body and really pay attention and listen to what your body is telling you, then you'll become very sensitive to when, you'll start to feel the stress coming up in your body. You'll start to see the signs earlier on. A lot of people will experience with the cortisol rising, there's like a desire for like sugar and carbs and stuff like that, so your eating habits will change. There's this sense of, you're staying up late even though you're tired. Sometimes you'll find yourself almost like staying up late, trying to steal back me time because you've not had any me time all throughout the day. So it's this sense of like, now I can have some me time, but you're doing it until like 2 a.m. in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things to kind of be mindful of, but that self-awareness piece is huge, and getting yourself out of that unhealthy norm to be able to actually experience a healthy norm, so that when you start to have those issues and stuff, you're much more sensitive and aware to them.
And you're speaking more so of the physical signs there, and I presume to go with that, maybe you're purely existing on coffee and adrenaline and fear. But what might some of the mental signs be of it? Like your words might be coming to mind when you get an email in, or when it's Monday morning. What sort of self-talk might be there? What might they be feeling about that? Not physically, but emotionally.
Yeah, totally. There's going to be a lot of mental fatigue. Your brain, you're not going to feel like you're on it, like you're going to probably likely be a lot more hard on yourself and not even realize it. We don't even realize how hard we are on ourselves. I tell people, when you just really pay attention to what you're saying to yourself, and if you would say that to someone you love, whether it be your partner, your best friend, or whatever, a best friend that you're kind to, because there's people aren't kind to their best friend either. If you wouldn't say these things to someone you love, well, why are you saying them to yourself? You love yourself, right? So we also tend to find ourselves reacting a lot more than responding. It's these immediate kind of like, we're getting easily triggered, we're easily annoyed, aggravated, and things like that. And we end up realizing we don't really, like the person we see in the mirror, right? So those are some of the signs as well. When I think, yeah. And then like the end of the day, that feeling of, you don't feel accomplished, you don't feel like you made any progress, and you're just on this hamster wheel, or some people call it Groundhog Day, and knowing that you're going to do it all over again tomorrow, and it's going to feel exactly the same, and you almost kind of dread tomorrow coming just because you know you're not going to feel accomplished, right? It's just that, again, that hamster wheel, that Groundhog Day over and over.
It sounds very, very familiar. And so the things that you and I have learned to do to head that off when life starts to feel that way, taking some me time, you kind of gave the clue there, but you know, without that costing you your sleep, I think that sleep is the number one thing to just start getting more of whatever that requires. Like drink less coffee, no coffee in the afternoon, so that you can just conk out after work if you need to. But once you're getting 7 to 8 hours regularly, you will sort of reset your mood, your positivity, and your physical health are just all going to improve.
Yeah.
I was going to say rapidly. Your energy will improve rapidly. Your physical health, that's more of a long-term play, but
absolutely.
Certainly sleep first, and just being aware that you need some time to yourself. So I use a habit tracker, and on it there's a few things. Have the whole days of the month across the top, and a few things down the side are like social day, and time to myself, and time in nature. And they don't all have to be ticked every day, of course, but like, are they being sort of balanced out? And every week, am I hitting 1 or 2 of those?
Right.
And I find that's been quite helpful, because I notice how much more reactive I am to dropping something on the floor. I'm like curse out loud when I do that. And if I did, and I looked at my habit tracker, I'd be like, you haven't meditated in a week, and you haven't seen a tree in 2 weeks. You know, that kind of a thing. So just whatever ways you can be aware of what you are doing and become more intentional about taking time for yourself and with other people, and just having a balanced life in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you know, when you're able to take time for yourself every day, you less likely need that I need a 2-week vacation, you know, I have to recover, digital detox, all of these things, right? And that's not really, you know, they say the yin and the yang. The yin and the yang needs to be a daily basis, right? Like you need to be able to flow in and out of get shit done, enjoy and relax, get shit done, enjoy and relax, right? Instead of just like get shit done all the time and then like, okay, I've got to disconnect and relax, or I can't handle life, you know? That's not balance, right?
Yeah, living for the weekend isn't living.
Exactly, yeah. And even digital nomads, you know, like we work throughout the week as well. And even though we're in all these cool locations, you still, as a digital nomad, need to be able to balance on a daily basis. And also you can find, or otherwise you can find yourself just living for the weekends as a digital nomad as well.
Some great tips there on how to recognize and hopefully head off burnout. Of course, for more, you could speak to Ali, go on her website, go on my website, look at the blogs, past YouTube videos. Plenty of material to help you out there.